Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
You can tell your old man you'll do some largemouth fish in another town. You just got too much on your plate to bait and cast a line. You can always put a rain check in his hand till you can't.
Welcome everyone to another absolutely awesome episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. I'm excited for today. I really am. I'm very excited because today I bring you the President and Minister of Magic, an emotional intelligence expert, keynote speaker, and sought-after executive coach. She combines a no BS approach mixed with a healthy dose of magic, which help transform organizations that produce incredible results. Thrive Loud listeners, you got to break out your alchemy set here and get ready to connect because I am bringing you the Catie Campbell. Kate, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Lou, thank you so much for that awesome intro and just for having me as a guest on your show.
I'm excited to have you for so many reasons we're going to get into here, mostly because we're talking a little magic stuff here. So what I want to do is I want to do that little rewind. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb, but we could if you'd like to. But we're going to go to the spot where we have a better understanding as to how the work that you do, the gig that you're in right now, how this became your gig.
The work that I do and how it became my gig. Yeah, it's a winding story, so I won't go back to the womb because that would be awkward. Let's not make it awkward. Really where I started to focus in as a leadership development professional, somebody who had worked with people and building leadership programs and teams for years, I happened upon a leader that I was working with as a consultant. He was an executive in the federal government, was a political appointee for President Obama's first term. And he had just come from the Hill and taken on this really big organization, and they weren't thriving at all. In fact, they were really suffering. So he was there to turn the organization around and to also just build the team back up, build all the people. So I did a strategy session with he and his team, executives who are career executives and political executives. He brought all these sides together. We had a strategy for how he was going to drive a new version of leadership for this organization and turn it around. I left his office. I went back into my cubicle and sat down, and the phone rings, and it's him. It's this leader. And I thought I had left something in his office because I have a propensity to do that. And he said, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I'm like, wait a minute, we just put together the strategy. You're going to win, man. This is going to be awesome for you. And he said, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think I am ready to lead this and do this. And so I got off the phone call. I made him walk back from the ledge a little bit. And I went into my boss's office immediately and said, I think this guy needs coaching. I think I can help him. And I don't know how to do that, but I really want to learn, because if I can get him to be highly successful in this office, he's going to impact 250 people that work for him. But more importantly, a very important demographic at the U.S. Department of Education and millions of children that he's going to help serve. I have got to figure this out. And from there, I went to Georgetown University, got my coaching certificate, but have spent years now, it's been a little over a decade since I did that, trying to not just perfect the craft, but really understand people at a deeper fundamental level. Because once I can do that, I can help you figure out how to be a better leader of your team, of your organization, and your business. So that's really where it started. And it's just really, the trajectory has just continued since then.
I like it. And it's really cool, and I'm going to dig a little deeper here. Whether you knew what it was or not, have you always had kind of a little bit of a higher EQ than most, that kind of extra sense of what's going on with another individual, something that really good coaches, and something that I know is something you're writing about, very important in your world? Is that something you've always had?
I think I always had a better sense of the story behind every single person. So when I was a little kid, I was an avid reader. I could consume books and books and books, like a dozen books a week. And so it's the story, it was the emotional data that you can get from stories is where I think I've really started to learn that first. And then I was a smart kid in class and I would get bored really easily. So I would just watch people and pay attention to what they said and how they said it. And I would then daydream, but I would wonder what's going on behind that. Like, why are, somebody who was usually really positive shows up and they're just in terrible mood. Like, what was happening at home? I wonder what happened on the bus before they came into school. And it just became this habit that I continued into my professional life. I would sit and entertain myself during really boring meetings, doing the exact same thing, wondering deeply about the other person. And what I've learned over time is that we are data producing machines. That's how I look at human beings. You're giving off data with every single thing that you do. So then I started looking at it like a science experiment. Like, what kind of data can I pick up on? Your language, your affect, your dress, the way that you're holding yourself, the way that you move your hands or your body. All of it is data, and it really connects to how we make meaning in our world. So then as a coach and then digging into the EQ side of things, that gives me an edge to really understand how to go deeper with people more quickly and help them either get out of the hole that they're in or take them from where they are to exactly where they want to go.
I'm going to read something, listeners, that was a note that Catie had sent to me as part of her coming on the show. I'm going to read this because she wrote, "I'm a big believer in breaking the rules for the right reasons. Most of the rules we follow are made up, and I believe it's time to change how we work, how we lead, how we operate, and eventually how we define success." By the way, I agree with you completely on this, but I want to dig a little deeper in that. Maybe share with the listeners a little bit behind that. What's wrong with the way things are going on now, and where do you see us heading to, or where should we be heading to?
So when we don't break the rules, that's status quo. And everyone's going to tell you, oh, I don't like status quo. I like innovation and I like change. And it's not true. Adults are terrible at change. They're terrible at wanting to buck the status quo because we also value safety. Safety in our jobs, safety that there's going to be a paycheck that pays the mortgage, safety in our relationships in terms of our friendships or with our spouses, with our children. So we prefer as adults safety versus breaking the rules. When we're little kids, we do that. Developmentally, children do that on purpose because that teaches them where the boundaries are and where the guardrails are for their lives. But the older we get, most people choose safety versus figuring out where the guardrails are, or we think the guardrails are going to keep us safe. And in fact, what I found in nearly every single industry that I've ever worked in is that the people who are the most successful are the ones who break the rules, who know where the guardrails are, and they recognize that that does keep the masses safe, but that doesn't allow for breakthrough innovation. It doesn't allow for growth. It doesn't allow you to accept that, I heard a statistic yesterday that within 10 years, more than half of the cars in the United States will be electric vehicles. That seems mind-blowing. And so you start to put the math together and say, well, yeah, but Elon Musk started breaking rules and said, I don't really care about, gas-powered vehicles. I really care about doing this instead. So I'm just going to break all the rules. I don't think he's a great example for great leadership and some other things too. However, he is a shining example of somebody who said, I don't really care that the old rules are, this is how we make cars and this is how we have a union around it. I want to do something different than that. And so it's tough. It's really, it's a big, bold choice. But that's the people that you see, the people that get highlighted as luminaries in the business world, in government, and even in nonprofits too, are the people who are not adhering to the status quo. They just break the rules.
Yeah, I can think of every great leader. That's what they had to do. The rule always had to be broken. It's like we need to follow the rules to a certain extent and some guidelines. I like that term you used. But the ones who make a difference, the ones who make a change, do something completely different and change the way we think about it.
100%.
Just think of the Apple rules. Okay, listeners need to know that we're recording this interview actually on my own birthday, and I thought about this because I remember, you don't remember the real birthdays when you're really little, like when I was a little kid. But I remember some of the first birthdays. And one of the birthday parties that I had, my dad, who thinks he's good at this, but to a 6 or 7 year old kid or whatever it was, he put on this whole magic show with all these little magic tricks. And he loved magic. And I have loved magic ever since I was a little kid. Can you share with the listeners what Calibri Magic is all about and how, as I mentioned, this magic component to what you're doing and coaching and EQ, how that all comes together? Explain this package of amazingness and magic that Catie has put together, if you could.
Sure. So the magic piece really came from, it's a phrase that people would use when they were trying to get me to go and work with the team. They'd say, listen, or an organization, this team is really struggling, or this organization's got, a funky culture and it needs to be turned around. Can you just go work your magic on them? Work your magic with Lou because Lou's struggling in his role, but Lou's really valuable to our organization and we can't lose him. Can you just work your magic with Lou and get him to where we need him to be? And but this has happened to me since I was a kid. It was doing group projects. Can you just work your magic and make this report sound better? Can you work your magic and make our presentation really sing? Can you work your magic and bring this group of kids along? And I don't know what it is about me, but like when I was I'll give you an example. This has been happening since I was 4. And I was 4 years old. My mom was a stay-at-home parent. There were 2 of us kids, and my dad was a pretty entry-level government worker, so he wasn't making the big bucks. And I kept getting invited to birthday parties for kids in my preschool class, and it was starting to rack up in terms of the amount of money my mom was shelling out on presents for kids that weren't her own. So she sort of lamented this to one of the other moms, and they said, well, you know why we invite Catie to all of the parties? And she said, no. She said, she can get all the other kids to play the games. So part of the magic working was just, if I learn something where I think I can do it, I'm going to bring you along too. So if there was something, Lou, that you're like, oh, Catie, I don't know how to cook this particular thing because I love to cook. I'd say, Lou, come in my kitchen, or I'll come in yours, and let's work together side by side. I'll show you how to do it. You can do it. If I can figure this out, you absolutely can. And so some of the magic is just in that belief that I've always had that, come on, we can figure this out. We can do this. But it's magic because I don't think as a little kid I knew that I was doing it then. And sometimes I don't even know that I'm doing it when I'm working with people. It just kind of happens. So I had to build some of the brand on that. And then the hummingbird piece is, in terms of breaking the rules, I don't want to work with companies and leaders like a lot of consulting firms do, which they want to come in, get you as a client, and they want to, like what they call land and expand. They just want to be on the rolls of your expense line forever. And I don't think that's the right thing. So when I was thinking about, a symbol of how I wanted to operate with people, the hummingbird was natural for me because 1, it's one of my favorite animals of all the species. And 2 is because hummingbirds, they are fiercely loyal to the flowers that they feed on. But they go in and they come out. They go in, they come out. They don't stay in one spot for very long. They can hover, they can fly backwards, they can fly forwards. They're a very nimble and agile creature. And then they move around a lot. So I don't believe that I have to go in and work with the company in perpetuity. What I should be doing is making them highly successful and then saying, you got it, peace out, and call me if you need me. But otherwise, just keep rocking what you're doing. And so that's kind of how it all came together.
I like it. We're taking the fastest heartbeat on the planet and combining it with incredible energy and bringing something together, and you're connecting all this together. Maybe that's the magic force that you have. But we're not going to no magician's going to reveal their true secrets. They're going to have to figure that part out as we get to it. Now I want to talk about what you're seeing behind the curtain. Okay. What is right now the most common issue, trait with your clients, the things that it's almost like if I were to pick one common theme that you're seeing more often than not? Catie, what is that theme? Share with the listeners from your purview as to what you're seeing in the workplace today.
I'm so glad you asked that question. And it actually came up this morning when I was working with a CEO that I'm working with him and then a handful of his top leaders. What I'm seeing is a deficit in people understanding how to use their own emotional data to get the results that they want. And also a deficit in them understanding how the emotional part of their being is really driving them to either get great results or to not. It's the thing that's holding them back. So when I talk with people about this, and in particular men, but sometimes it's women too, so I don't want to be totally gender specific, but from a cultural perspective in the United States, women are, for the most part, raised to be allowed to be emotional, to show emotion, to understand that, to talk from an emotional perspective, and men are not typically raised in that way. So what I'm seeing is that deficit, especially with a lot of the male leaders that I work with too, of like not understanding why they go in to talk to their boss and they end up blowing up and yelling at them, or not understanding why something that somebody else does really frustrates them, but that's as far as they can go. They can say, I'm frustrated at what they're doing, but it's usually well below the surface of frustration. It's they're making me anxious. They've diminished me. They have made me feel small. They have disrespected me. Well, frustrated is one feeling. Diminished or disrespected is something very, very different. And so if you play this out, if I think that you've disrespected me, Lou, and now we're going to go into a staff meeting or a board meeting together, everything that you say that I'm hearing is going to be filtered through the fact that you disrespected me a week ago or something like that. There's no way that we're going to be collaborative. There's no way that we're going to say he's got my back and I've got his, because there's this wedge that's between us. And so what I'm finding is, number one, the precision or the accuracy of what people's emotional state are, it's hard for them to figure that out. So that's a lot of the work that I do with people, is to figure out what is the underlying emotion that you're really grappling with, and helping to really kind of illuminate for them to say, okay, so when you're dealing with the fact that you feel disrespected by Lou, and then you're sitting in a meeting with him, here's how you show up and behave. Here's what he's hearing. Here's what everybody else can see that's going on. And nobody really knows it's because you feel disrespected. They just can tell that you're frustrated. But the disrespect is the thing that's driving your behavior.
And by the way, I totally agree. There is that, we all have an uncomfortableness, and there is a sense of trying to create an environment or a culture of respect. Who do you like working with the most? And when I say this, a lot of times people love working with the founder, the CEO of an organization, to help get that to filter in. And then there's also, like, I'm never minimizing this. There are the doers in a company who also need a lot of that, who are the ones doing all of that. Is there a certain tier that you enjoy working with more than another? Not to say that one is not better than the other, but something that you know that your magical powers have maybe a more impactful impact when you actually get to do your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked, and I'll say I've worked with every single level of leader. So from emerging leader, they're just thinking about being, taking on a supervisory role, up through the C-suite and board level. For me, where I feel when I'm doing my best work is really at that executive C-suite level, because they have the biggest roll down impact. So if they start behaving in a way that's more congruent with their company values or what the business actually needs, other people will follow suit. So you really need to have somebody who's setting the standard, somebody who is saying, no, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to treat people. This is how we're going to demonstrate respect. This is how we're going to create psychological safety. It has to start at those most senior levels. So my proposition is that I could get a lot more scale. I could work with a ton more leaders if I picked kind of the middle management level. But for me, I really want to see those executive leaders demonstrate those qualities, start behaving a little bit differently, and help learn how to cascade that down through their business, because they know their business best.
I love asking guests this question. I want to see where this goes. Look, you're kicking butt. You're doing what you love that you're doing. You're taking coaching to a new level, and you're helping organizations truly thrive, which is why you're on this program. And what makes you thrive on most days. Yet we all have those days where we're a little off our game. Catie Campbell, when you personally have trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Okay, those are two different questions, but I'm going to answer both of them. So one is, what do I do? Because a lot of times, I mean, I've got a team of people, but I'm working out of my house, right? So I can't walk out of my office and then go and see somebody. So I'll take one or two practices. One would be to get outside and get some sunshine. I live in Texas, and it's pretty sunny all the time here. So, and just take a 20-minute block to actually physically move myself, to work out some of the stuff that's kind of holding me down, and to also get regrounded. The second thing that I would do, and usually my first choice, is to sit down and meditate somewhere. So even if it's just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but there's so many great apps and tools and resources that you can use. But usually when I'm feeling a little bit off or wonky, it's because I'm not grounded in myself. So I will use any of these, I will use 15 minutes to get recentered and refocused. Then I can do almost anything. But if I'm really off my game, there's three men. I don't know how that worked out, but three men in my life: Justin, Eric, and Mike. And I can call them at any time and say, I need you to stop what you're doing. I just need you to get my head right again. And they know how to do that. And so we have a relationship, and we've got, a friendship that allows us to do that back and forth, because sometimes they need a little dose of something to get them recentered, and they call me.
I love it. Got your own little mastermind group of support and agency there. I love it. And very good tips. Getting outside. Although getting outside in August and September in Texas can be very hot. Just let
it's a little sporting. That's true, especially when you have very pale skin. So
let's do the admin part of the show, Catie. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URLs, social handles. We'll put it on the show notes, but it gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Rock on. So colibrimagic.com. So is where you can get the home base of everything. If you are on TikTok, it's the Catie Campbell, or on Instagram, it's the same, the Catie Campbell. And we're just starting up our YouTube channel, so you can easily find me there. Those are the best ways to stay in contact.
Love it. All right. She's been ready since the beginning of the show, listeners. She's been ready since I think she came out of the womb. We are on Fun Street. We're going to go down the speakeasy pub crawl, if you would. But we're going to start off with my favorite answer that I've gotten. Loyal listeners know that I love to ask what's someone's favorite movie. And I get the depends on the genre response from Catie. Can you share with the listeners? You shared 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies. If you can remember them all, I will help you. That are at the top of the list of some of your favorite movies that you love to watch.
I can't remember all of them, and I really wished I had captured that or taken a picture of that when I sent it in.
I could share it if you'd like. Tell me the ones you know, and I'll fill the blanks. Yeah. Okay. Well, you give.
I know that one of them is Rudy.
Yeah. Rudy, Ocean's 11, Moneyball, Groundhog Day, and You've Got Mail. This is like in every segment. I can't even think about what this is. Tell me each of those, whichever one resonates with you, why these movies connect with you.
One of the biggest ones, like for Rudy, even just sitting here thinking about it, I get goosebumps because of what he was able to do, not just in, playing for Notre Dame football, but it was his undying perseverance and his dedication to himself and what he was doing. He was willing to do whatever it took to be successful. And I don't think that everybody should grind themselves into a pulp, and you see it in the movie where that was not great for him too. But it was more of having that dream and never letting it go after everybody tells you no. And I've had that happen to me in my life before. So if I need another dose of come on, girl, you can do it, and I just need to be pumped up, or if I just kind of need a good cry, because I cannot watch that scene when he's on the sidelines or when the guys turn into jerseys, I'm tearing up now every single time. It's that is how much he moved and changed the entire system, and changed the hearts and minds of all these young men who are typically just rough and tough football players. So, but the other ones too, they all have really great one-liners. They bring out an emotional component in me. So if I'm feeling a little flat, I can put any of those movies on and I can be jazzed up, laughing, crying, in love, all those kinds of things all at once.
I love it. My favorite line in the Rudy is that scene when the coach his senior year states, you're an All-American, act like one. And he goes, I believe I am. And he drops the jersey. I'm getting choked up to saying it. I'm phenomenal. So,
yes, beautiful.
Moving on, before I get more emotional about the movie Rudy, we're going to do the speed round here. I'm going to ask you something. First thing that comes to your mind. These things lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good, basically make you thrive. And there's no wrong answers because they're your answers. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Of late, a song that's kind of like your jam, or one that you can't get out of your head and just love to listen to.
Oh, that's easy. So I'm a huge country music fan. And 2 years ago, Cody Johnson put out the song Till You Can't. And it's talking about chasing a dream. And that has fueled me as I started my business, but it fuels me too to come up with new ideas about how to help the world, how to change the world. So I love it. Every time that comes on, I'm like, yes, let's go.
I've already knew I liked Catie. Now I like her more. Okay. A favorite food that is not a dessert?
Steak. Absolutely. Really good steak. And if I can get some nice glass of wine with that too, all the better.
Favorite dessert?
I feel like I'm breaking the rules. 2. It's creme brulee and tiramisu. So it's either
No,
one.
there's no rule breaking. If it's a tie, it's a tie. And if you have
It's a
multiple
total
options,
tie.
I like it.
Total
Okay.
tie.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Okay. It's finishing the books that I purchased off of Amazon, because I have a stack. I won't show it to you. I have a stack of books behind me
I see them.
that I haven't read yet. I haven't. No. They're on the floor, and it's
Oh.
growing. I have a stack of books by my coffee table. I have a stack of books by my bed. Some of it is because I have friends who are authors as well, and I'm going to support them, absolutely. But then I'm always reading books to help my clients, but there's too many books to read. So yeah, I have a bad habit, and Amazon's really good at saying, but Catie, there's this book you should read. I'm like, yes, click. It's in the cart, and here it comes.
So the activity you wish you did more of was finish books.
Finish the books. Yes,
Finish the
absolutely.
book. Okay, got it. An activity you wish you did less of. That isn't leave the books on the floor.
Yeah, I know, right?
Sorry.
It should be that. Did less of. Probably neglecting the houseplants that I buy. Like I am a sucker for buying a plant and trying to keep them alive. And it's tough. Texas is not an easy environment to grow anything. And it hardly rained here this summer. So it was a tough summer for my plants, but I'm just going to give it the old college try again next year.
Authors and botanists, send your items and sell them to Catie. She will buy them instantly, and whether she takes care of them or not or gets through them is a whole other podcast episode for that.
True.
An activity that is relatively new to you, that you've recently tried, that you liked so much, you want to tell everybody else to try.
It is yin yoga. So a lot of people go, oh, do yoga. Yoga's really great. And hot yoga is hot and sexy, and everyone's like, oh, you got to do that, get a good sweat on it. I think people think that when you work out, you have to do that. Yin yoga requires you to focus, hold poses for a longer period of time, and it takes a lot of mental energy in addition to physical energy. So I love the pairing of the two. Yoga does that anyway, but this one just requires me to slow everything down so significantly that I can't get enough of it.
Catie Campbell, if I could snap my fingers and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
I am in Shanghai. So I had the opportunity, a client flew me out to do some work with their leadership team several years ago before the pandemic. The food was so exceptional that I dream about going back there just to eat the food. I mean, it was, but the people were so lovely. They were so welcoming, and it was the antithesis of what I thought going to China would be like. It was really life-changing and moving. And I learned a lot about the people through the food, especially out of the hotel, really, in the markets and that sort of thing. So I would give anything to go back there for a visit.
Nice. Catie Campbell, killing it. We got the Minister of Magic here. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for everything that you're doing. We'll do all the show note links and stuff like that so everybody can find you. But thank you again for coming on the program. Truly an honor to have you on, and keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome stuff.
Thank you, Lou. You're amazing. Appreciate you.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
If you got a chance, take it. Take it while you got a chance. If you got a dream, chase it. 'Cause a dream won't chase you back. If you're gonna love somebody, hold them as long and as strong and as close as you can, till you can. Yeah, if you got a chance, take it.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.